Playing a pretty typical LSU team. They're very good up front on both sides of the football. They have a lot of speed, in all positions. Obviously, they've been very good on Saturday nights at home, so we definitely have our work cut out for us.
Questions?
Take it through the fourth quarters all this season. You guys are outscoring opponents 20-0. Is it conditioning? Just adjustments? What is it?
Well, I'd like to think it starts with conditioning. Our guys have worked extremely hard. In the weight room, conditioning, the way we practice, I think has a lot to do with that. And just tribute to our guys making adjustments, as the game goes on.
Their offense a little bit different. Just they seem more willing to go vertical than they have in the past.
Yeah, they've got two very good receivers. Their quarterback has done a good job. He's protected the football. I believe he hadn't thrown an interception yet. Quite a few touchdowns. Anytime you couple that with a good running game, which they do have a very good running game, that's a challenge.
When teams stack the box against you guys to stop the run, obviously you got to be trying to do what they give you, but how much emphasis is going to be to establish the run against teams that know you're going to run?
Well, I think, we're a run play action team, and, so we're definitely going to have to be able to run the football in any game to be successful. And at the same time, when they add an extra guy down, you can't block, you got to be able to throw it. And so we're still working, on our passing game, and I think we improved last week.
You said last week, you said last week that you felt about as comfortable with Nick throwing the ball as a guy with two starts, and now that he let that come back, or the last drive, how more comfortable do you feel with him? How much more comfortable?
Well, that's got to help, the way that he ended the game last week. And, you look back at the game, and I think we had a few drops. And we had an overthrow, but at the same time, I felt like that he did a good job throwing the football, and I think he'll be more comfortable, each week.
Do you think that just gives opponents something else to think about? Like MSU is stacking the box, now LSU's got to think, Nick can throw the ball quite
I hope so. I hope that'll help us moving forward. And, I know it'll give our offensive coaches confidence to call what they give you.
What impresses you most about Zach Mettenberger as a quarterback?
Probably the way that he's protected the football. I believe he has 9 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. That says a lot. He's making good decisions.
Coach, has seen Nick perform the way he did. How much confidence did it give for you and for him going forward with the offense?
Yeah, last week definitely helped. There's no doubt. Each game you learn more about him. He learns more about us. He gets more comfortable. We got a big challenge this week. This is the best defense that we played against on the road in a hostile environment. We've got to deal with the elements and the noise and everything that goes with that.
Gus, I don't know how much you actually kind of look at the other scores and other stats of the other games, but some of the offensive stats that were put up this past weekend were kind of otherworldly. Bama gave up 268, Tennessee to Oregon 687. When you see that kind of offense happening around the country more and more, what do you think about it?
Really, that's the first time I heard of that. So, I was so focused on what we're doing. We're just trying to get better each game offensively and take it one game at a time. So, can't really speak too much for all the rest until we get there.
Going into a game here where Mettenberger used to be at Georgia, Nick Marshall used to be at Georgia, now they're both starting quarterbacks in the West. You never see that. You just talk about the second chances they've been given at these two different schools, and what do you think of that going into this type of game?
Well, Nick, we're glad to have him. There's no doubt. We feel like he'll get better each game. As far as Mettenberger, he looks like a very solid quarterback.
Gus, is it fair to say this is how much of a gauge are you reading into this game on the road?
Yeah.
With where your program is, and how do you view it?
Yeah, I think it is a good gauge. Just like last week, playing an SEC team at home. I told our guys, hey, we're going to find out, where we're at after this game, how we respond to different things. And I think this is no different. First road test against a top 10 team in the country to see where we're at. And it'll be good to go there and judge and look back and see where we're at.
Coach, following up on Brandon's question a minute ago, How much did you emphasize to Nick, hey, this is a second chance, you can make the most of it, and how much has he embraced that?
Yeah, we recruited him, and, he came here, we made clear our expectations, and you'll have a fair chance to compete for the job. He won the job. Told him what the job entails, not just playing quarterback, but everything else that goes with that, on and off the field. And, he's done everything we've asked with a great attitude. Coach Lashley's coached him extremely hard and been very demanding on him, and he's responded well.
How's he been off the field? A lot of receivers are telling reporters after the game about just individual moments going up to him and saying, you got this, and not just on the winning drive. He seems to be quite the leader,
Yeah, he is. He's kind of a quiet leader, but he doesn't get too high or too low. He stays calm and collective in all moments, and he's earned the respect of his teammates through his practice habits and the way he handles himself.
Because LSU's defense has gotten off to quite a hot start, and there's always a perennial contender and whatnot. They lost a lot of personnel to the NFL last year, obviously. Is there a weakness you've been able to notice with all those losses in personnel, even though they started off quite hot? Is there a weakness you've been able to see thus far?
Yeah, I tell you what, they're few and far between. They've got good players at just about every position. They tackle well. They're very aggressive. Coach Chavis is one of the best in the business, and that's the way he coaches. And his guys can run. I mean, they're probably one of the faster defenses in the country, and that's something you got to deal with.
Gus, I mean, the SEC for the longest time really, with Alabama and some of those guys, were known as the defensive conference. Other conferences had the big stats, SEC is all defense. This year, not so much. What do you attribute to that?
Well, in the West specifically, I mean, it may be a week that a team gives up a lot of yards, but year in, year out, it's going to be the best defensive league in college football, and I still believe at the end of the day it will be.
At the Saturday's game goes down, obviously, the last couple of seconds, and some plays around the country where there were some controversial endings. Have you had to reiterate the new rules of the final 2-second rules and things like that, and just to not only to yourself, your staff, but the players, just to go over those things again?
Yeah, the new rules with the clock, and if there's 2 seconds or 3 seconds, we've addressed that numerous times in fall camp and periodically since the season started. You're always trying to play what if, in the game situations, to have your guys prepared. We worked extremely hard on those situations, and hopefully when one comes up similar to that, we'll be prepared. It'll work out.
Talk about your team's success in the red zone. We were 10 for 10 at scoring chances.
Yeah, that's very important. We got a very good field goal kicker that helps with that. We protected the football down there going in, which is a big part of that. And we'll have to continue, that kind of success in the red zone.
Using the tight ends, obviously you got them involved. CJ obviously, and then Brandon with the catch on the 2-point conversion. Talk about just getting them more involved in the matchup problems that CJ does create.
Yeah, both those guys are big, long guys. They got good receiving skills, and they both came up big. And I think that'll give us, more pieces of the puzzle as we move forward, with our offensive progression.
Best updates on Chris Davis and Jeff Whitaker at this point?
Chris Davis, he's day to day. We'll see what happens this week with him, and Whitaker is very similar.
Was it good to get D back on the field?
I think so. The first half he's probably a little cautious, but the second half, I think he had confidence in his knee and really performed well.
How big is that going to be for you guys to play on the defensive line and to be able to control maybe the line of scrimmage and stuff?
I think it's very, very important to have an impact player. He's definitely an impact player. He can put pressure on the quarterback by himself, and he's a leader.
How concerned are you with the struggles running the ball against Mississippi State? I mean, obviously that made you kind of one-dimensional against them.
Yeah, well, first of all, Mississippi State was pretty good against the run, and they brought in an extra guy down from time to time, and so we just got to do a better job of keeping off balance. But the positive thing was we were able to throw the football, and each week may be a little bit different, and but we need to be able to run the football when the numbers let us.
Coach, the first year you guys talked about not pushing Nick Marshall too much too soon. Does it worry you a little bit going into his first road game at LSU? Do you have any reservations, or did last week kind of prove that he has earned a full reign of the offense?
Well, each week we're going to add a little more to it and see what he can handle and see what he's comfortable with. The challenge this week will be on the road with the crowd noise and everything that goes with that. But each week we're going to add to his, to his playbook.
Of late here, you struggle a little bit offensively, specifically in the second and third quarter. What have you noticed with that? What's the issue there?
Yeah, we're definitely looking into that, as far as the second quarter and then coming out of halftime. In the past, we've been pretty solid coming out of halftime. We got to improve, but the big thing has probably been the second quarter. We got to find a way to get a little more rhythm and execute better.
So teams just adjusting to you guys, and
I think it's a little bit of both. Teams adjusting. If we hurt them on something in the first quarter, them adjusting, taking something else away, and making us do something different. And so I think it's a little bit of all the above.
A lot of players talk about how you guys rep the 2-minute drill and everything, but noticing you on the sideline, you're calling plays before, I think Mark Stakes caught a ball and he's not even out of bounds yet, and you're already getting. How much of prep do you guys put into that, and you specifically in getting the next play call?
Yeah, I think as a coach, it's always good to put yourself in those type of situations before, and the fact that we do it, a couple times a week, I know that helps. You're already kind of thinking ahead, but it was all really about our players executing that last drive. I mean, they did a very solid job.
Do you kind of live for those moments, though? It seems like you got a little bit more.
As a coach in the game, you just, your biggest challenge is always be prepared and always be thinking ahead and, making sure that your players are prepared and that they've repped it and they went over it no matter what look they get, they're prepared. And then you see what happens. But, coaching at the end of the game, especially when something positive happens, that's good.
Yes, Reese and Chris Davis have been captains for each of the 3 games. Is that a season-long decision?
What's that?
Reese and Chris Davis have been captains each of the 3 games. Is that a season-long?
Yeah, I just like putting guys out there and being consistent in a lot of different things. That's one of them.
We all kind of saw the excitement you had on that last touchdown, obviously.
Yeah.
But kind of walk us through that last moment. We've seen you adamant or animated on the sideline.
Yeah.
But what was that kind of moment like for
Yeah,
you?
I'm a very emotional coach, and that's the way I coach, and that's who I am, and I was very, very proud of our team at the end. Very proud. That was big what they did and the way we responded, and that'll help us moving forward.
You ever swallowed your gum on the sideline?
I've gotten better in that area. I think I didn't chew that much other than
Each week you mentioned you like seeing how the team responds and, to adverse situations. Do you feel like you learned more having to have a win that required a last-minute drive like that compared to if you won by 3 touchdowns and didn't have
Oh,
any kind
yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, that's when you really find out. Decision moments, that could go either way. You find out more about your team than you do winning by 3 touchdowns. I mean, so I thought it was really good to be able to win a game like that. And that'll give you confidence moving forward. Football is, there's a lot of mental things that go on with winning, expecting to win, knowing how to win. And I think that'll help us, moving forward. Matter of fact, I know it'll help us moving forward if we have situations like that. Our guys will believe they can win.
I know Ellis has a good handle on defense, but he doesn't want these trash plays, they call them the big plays. Just what have you noticed? And obviously you guys are pretty high up there in scoring defense, but the chunk plays have hurt you guys at times.
Yeah, well, first of all, Ellis Johnson's one of the better defense coordinators in all of college football. And, similar to offense, they're a work in progress too. They've had some injuries and some guys have to step up. And so, the more consistent we can be with our personnel moving forward, the more consistent those guys will be.
Last week in practice, one of the big things was cut down the penalties and third downs. And how about this week? Anything in particular?
Well, it's the same thing, as far as that goes. Penalties, especially being on the road, and then just the base execution of our offense and our defense. Like I said, we're still a work in progress on both sides, and so just keep getting better at what we do, and not beating ourselves.
Gus, how much does the rivalry with LSU has been really close a lot of the last couple of years, except for about 2, I think, the last 6. So how much does last week's win and the way you won give you confidence going in, given the history of that?
Well, I mean, when you win, I mean, obviously it helps you, but this is a different challenge. Playing a top 10 team on the road. We've had a good rivalry with LSU. They're a very good team. They're going to make you earn it, and they got big playability on offense, so it'll be a challenge.
Yes, will Damian be coaching from the sidelines from now on?
We'll talk through that later in the week. It worked out well last week.
Can you put into words, describe in words, I guess, the atmosphere of the night game at Tiger Stadium?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Our crowd was great. I told somebody after the game, you know, it felt like the old days around here. It was just really electric. They helped us win the game. I mean, they helped us in the fourth quarter win the game with everything that a big-time crowd does.
Anything else?
Because with the targeting rules, after going through what Jonathan went through in A-Day and what Chris went through early a couple weeks ago, some coaches have said that if the targeting aspect of the foul can be reviewed and overturned, that the yard should also be able to be overturned. What's your stance on that?
You know, we're just working through that. Like I said last week, I think we're going to learn this year, but each week you'll have a better grip, you know, from a coach's standpoint of what's going to be called and, you know, how to deal with all those aspects.